This was something savage. It scared the community.
A brutal attack.
She had at least 10 fractured ribs, fractured larynx, bruises all over her body.
By posing her and making her look like some type of a sexual deviant, she is basically being humiliated after the end of her life.
A twisted tale with multiple suspects.
He is being so secretive, he's being so careful to cover his tracks.
Maybe they did have a sexual relationship. Maybe something went wrong. Or was it some unknown subject that we had in our community that enjoyed doing this?
Everybody is a suspect.
The truth will be revealed.
She was doing some online dating, and whoever killed her is in her computer, and that'll tell you all you need to know.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. Deer Park, Washington, 20 miles north of Spokane. It's a nature lover's paradise.
It is full of fun things to do, both winter and summer. People come here to take their vacations. It's such a nice town. And so we feel lucky to live here.
It's not overly crowded. People know people still. Everyone knows their neighbor.
Deer Park is a quiet place, and it's not known for violent crimes. Maybe property crimes, some family disputes that we deal with.
But on a chilly December evening, the quiet safety of the town would be violently disturbed when police get a call from a distraught man looking for his ex-wife, Shannon Starbucks.
He asked for a deputy to respond to her house to do a welfare check. He explained to the deputy that it was totally uncommon for her to take off and be gone for periods of time. Responding deputies walked around the house, looked through the windows, looked for signs of forced entry. Is there some kind of foul play here? At the time, they did not have enough probable cause or reasonable suspicion to enter this residence without a warrant.
The next day, police get another call, this time from her panicked mother.
According to her mother, they spoke at 9 a.m. in the morning on a daily basis. And it had been 2 mornings that they had not spoken. And that prompted officers to respond again. They were able to obtain a key, and they made entry at that time and discovered the body.
Detectives Mike Ricketts and Lyle Johnston of the Spokane County Sheriff's Office rush to the scene.
There was no signs of a break-in. I didn't see anything obvious within the living room. When I entered the master bedroom, here is this white female that's in her mid-30s or so, laying on the bed.
She was laying on her back, face up. She had bruising near her neck area and some bruising around her facial area. The bruising itself would indicate to me that she was beat. There were no knife wounds. There were no gun wounds. Considered a possibility that was suffocation or strangulation. There was a robe that was kind of awkwardly placed on her. There was a massage vibrator type of device that people would use to massage their muscles that was wrapped inside of that robe awkwardly. Not like she had done that. She was posed that way.
Detectives confirm the woman is 42-year-old Shannon Starbucks.
Shannon was a lovely, vivacious woman. She was married to a man named Clay, and they had recently become divorced.
Now, they had 5 children. 2 older boys lived with Clay, and the 3 younger, the 2 girls and the youngest son, lived with Shannon.
She was vibrant, she was beautiful, she was kind. She was also going back to school that time. She was restarting her life.
Who would break into the home of a lovely woman, the mother of 5 children, and do such a horrible thing to her? This was something savage. It scared the community.
To catch her killer, detectives will need to piece together the last 24 hours of Shannon Starbucks' life. They start by processing the crime scene.
I didn't find any sign of a struggle inside the bedroom. We collected DNA swabs from her neck and under her fingernails. All of the blankets from the bed were inside the wash machine, which was just right outside the master bedroom door. And the front of the wash machine had been completely wiped down. And appears to be some type of cleanup of the crime scene to hide any potential evidence that may have been left on the bed by the suspect. At the foot of the bed is what appears to be a safe. And inside there are several sexual toys that are staged in a way so that they could be obviously seen from anyone who's walking past.
Detectives start working up a profile on Shannon's killer.
By posing her and making her look like some type of a sexual deviant, she is basically being humiliated after the end of her life. This would appear to be someone that has some type of a vendetta against Shannon to take this much time and effort to make her look this bad.
Is it somebody that was close to her, that knows her, that was angry with her, wanted to get back at her? Or was it some unknown subject that we had in our community that enjoyed doing this?
The first person detectives want to speak with is Shannon's ex-husband, Clay Starbuck.
Oftentimes in these type of investigations, we're going to look at the domestic partner or the ex.
The sad reality is these are the vast majority of the offenders who are taking the lives of women. It's not the stranger hiding behind the bush. It's not a serial killer. It's the people that have already been in their lives.
I met Clay, and I said, "Hi, I'm Detective Dressbeck. I understand you have some questions." He said, "Yeah. I want to know what's going on. Nobody will tell me anything." I said, "You don't know what happened?" He said, "No, nobody will tell me anything." So I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but your wife was found dead in her bedroom." And he just collapsed on the floor. And it's prudent and appropriate as an investigator to give them room to react in whatever fashion they're gonna react. At one point, he even excused himself, went into the bathroom, and I could hear him heaving like he was throwing up. Like this was very traumatic to him.
After Clay gets over the shock of Shannon's death, detectives ask him when he last saw his ex-wife.
Clay Starbuck had told us that he had a small car that didn't run very well. So on the day in question, he starts the car up. He drives it around this community area where he lives in Deer Park. And it stalls approximately 2 to 3 blocks from Shannon Starbucks' house.
I was cranking and trying to start it. It didn't start. And I texted Shannon and said, you know, like, car quit, can you take the kids? And she texted me and said, okay. And so she took the kids to school. So I walk home.
He gets back to his house and then he goes to sleep because his back is hurting. And at that time, his phone must have died because the battery wasn't charged.
Clay says he went back to work on his car from 11:10 a.m. until 3:30 p.m., returning to his home a number of times during the day to get more tools.
2:45 p.m., The children were out of school and texted Shannon asking where she was, who's going to pick me up.
Shannon was supposed to go to the school and pick up the children, and she doesn't arrive.
In the late afternoon, while his phone was dead, Clay says he missed a number of texts.
3:17 p.m., Shannon texted Clay asking if he could pick up the kids. And that was the last text from her phone that afternoon.
She says something like, I just got up. Can you get the kids? But my phone wasn't on. And so Austin left work and picked up the kids.
Clay wasn't worried at that point because he thought he would see Shannon later that night.
There was a basketball game one of the oldest sons was playing in at the high school that evening. And Shannon usually would show up at those games, however, she wasn't there that night.
I sent Shannon a couple texts just saying, you know, get a hold of us.
After the basketball game, Clay and the kids went to Shannon's house.
We've walked around the house. I've walked around the house with the kids with a flashlight, looking in there Thursday night.
Okay.
And
And then what happened?
well, we went back to my house.
Okay.
And the kids kept trying to call Shannon, and I think I sent her another text. On Friday, I sent her a text and said, if we don't hear from you by 7 p.m. tonight, I'm gonna call and have the sheriff find you.
Detectives are now able to narrow down the window of time that Shannon was murdered.
Shannon's death probably occurred somewhere on December 1st after 3:17 p.m. and sometime before December 2nd around 9 a.m.
She had a routine of talking to her mother at a specific time in the morning, and that phone call doesn't come. So we begin to operate under the assumption that she was deceased by that particular time.
Investigators check Clay's cell phone records. It corroborates what he told investigators.
He was cooperative during the interview, and he provided a DNA sample voluntarily.
With his alibi having checked out, they ask Clay who he thinks might have wanted to hurt Shannon in such a brutal way.
The thing that he kept saying was, look at her computer, and that'll tell you all you need to know. He said she was doing some online dating, and whoever killed her is in there.
Who did they meet in person? Who did they ghost? Who may be motivated to come after them? Who was not who they said they were? I mean, online dating is the Wild West.
Detectives are working a theory that whoever murdered Shannon Starbucks could be connected to her online dating. They start by scouring her phone, looking for recent dates.
One of the first ones that came up was a guy by the name of Tom. And Tom had sent her some text messages that very day. Tom and Shannon had been flirting back and forth, and it was obvious that they're attracted to one another.
As they continue reading the texts, alarm bells sound.
Tom is encouraging Shannon to send him some kind of racy pictures, and one of the pictures that he asked for is very similar to the pose that we find Shannon's deceased body in.
Is this a coincidence? How is this possible?
That threw up red flags for us. We're thinking he is our suspect.
They track Tom down by calling the number on Shannon's phone.
When we first talked to Tom, we went to his residence. Tom told us he met Shannon through a dating application. They had met, they had communications on the phone and via text. They had not been intimate.
Detectives asked Tom to account for his whereabouts during the time they believe Shannon was murdered.
Tom Walker told us that he left from work approximately 9:40 a.m. to go to a funeral. And then he returned to work at around 10:50 a.m. He said that he had texted her about going to the funeral and asked her how her day was going. She subsequently responded to him a little while later, around 12, asking if he would like to meet her for lunch at that time. She thought it was odd because she knew that he had a funeral to attend to and that he would be at work and would not be able to meet on December 1st. We were able to investigate that and totally corroborate everything he told us. His boss eliminated him by verifying when he was at work, when he went to the funeral, when he came back, and how late he worked that evening. He was nowhere near Shannon's residence on December 1st. Tom also provided us with a DNA sample voluntarily. His DNA was not found on Shannon Starbucks in the place of the injuries.
So we were able to rule Tom out in the death of Shannon Starbucks.
Still believing Shannon's dating history is the key to finding her killer, detectives delve deeper into her personal life.
Similar to going to a bar, for instance, to meet people and not knowing them. Online, you're also potentially connecting with people you don't know. And there is some research to suggest that online dating behavior is associated with increased risk of violence.
So sometime shortly after noon, Shannon text messages the guy by the name of John and appears to be setting up some type of a rendezvous for later in the evening, on the same day as her death.
Detectives set to work finding John Wilson.
We were able to take the photograph off of John's Facebook account, run it through the open source search engine, and we were able to match that photograph with a doctor out of Maryland. Once we contacted that doctor, we were able to verify that that wasn't really a picture of John, and John is just an unknown person who's faking these profiles for the purposes of dating multiple women.
I think 50% of people or more report lying about their profiles or information online. So it begs the question, who are you talking to?
John's fake online presence leads detectives to theorize that he is somehow involved in Shannon's murder.
He's difficult to find, and he's already being untruthful about his identity. He seems to have disappeared into the wind the moment that Shannon Starbuck is murdered. So we thought, John is our guy, because he is being so secretive, he's being so careful to cover his tracks. We reached out to John directly. I sent him both an email and messaged him saying, you need to contact the police. So when John calls me, he is very skeptical. Sounds like he can't really believe that the police are reaching out to him. But I inform him that I'm investigating the death of Shannon Starbuck. His first reaction was that he wanted to consult with an attorney.
When you see a suspect immediately lawyer up, as they say, and engage their attorney, it doesn't necessarily point to guilt, but it points to them having something to hide. No matter what the reason, that would automatically elevate them, in my experience, to someone who requires closer scrutiny.
Detectives ask for the man's real name, but he refuses to give it to them.
And at that time, I scribbled out a quick note saying, hey, tell him he's got 20 seconds, tell us who he is, identify himself, or we're gonna put his photograph out on the media everywhere to find out who he is.
It's called offering the out. And this is frequently where we see they'll cop to something that they wouldn't normally confess to because it's a preferred alternative to what's being insinuated.
At that point, John does give me his true identity, and we make an arrangement to meet the following day with his attorney.
Detectives finally come face to face with their prime suspect, John Kenline.
And so John did lay out the fact that he is married, he has a job that is kind of respected in the community. And yet he's leading this double lifestyle of meeting up with multiple women. And so he doesn't want this to be known. He feels that he's got a lot to lose, potentially his job, his marriage, his own children, his house. Everything is riding on the line. Yet at the same time, he realizes the predicament he's in. He's the #1 suspect in a homicide, so it all has to come out.
If somebody's willing to cheat or lie to their family, they're probably willing to lie to investigators.
Detectives asked John where he was during the time they believe Shannon was murdered.
He told us that he dropped his kids off at school that morning and that he had plans to see Shannon approximately 10:30 a.m. in Deer Park. He drove up to Shannon's house and there was no answer.
He admits that he's been there at the house. He's made phone calls on the day that she is murdered. Everything puts him in the area.
Detectives suspect John Kenline murdered Shannon after a date gone bad.
What crossed my mind was maybe they did meet up and maybe they did have a sexual relationship. Maybe something went wrong. We suspected that John was our killer.
Detectives have zeroed in on John Kenline as the prime suspect in the murder of Shannon Starbuck.
John told us he drove up to Shannon's house and there was no answer. So he utilized some public phones in the Deer Park area and he tried to call her, still didn't get any answer. He actually drove back to her house, still no sign of Shannon, nobody answered the door. He also went around the house knocking on windows and that, there was still no answer.
After he left, Kenline claims he finally heard from Shannon. She texted saying she was out for lunch and was sorry she missed him.
So sometime shortly after noon, Shannon text messages John and appears to be setting up some type of a rendezvous for later in the evening, making plans for that night.
So John went back that evening and tried to meet up with her, and there was no answer.
Detectives are suspicious of John's story.
His own alibi put him at the house during that time frame when Shannon was murdered.
There could be a variety of motivations that John would have in showing up at her house. It could be that she was about to expose him for the charlatan and the fraud that he was. It could be that he felt she had ghosted him and how dare she. It could be that he just wanted to take the relationship to the next level and then found when he was there that, in fact, his fantasies were more twisted maybe than even he knew.
There's just one problem.
At the time, John did provide us with a DNA sample, which we tested along with other samples, and he was eliminated as a contributor to DNA.
The fact John's DNA is ruled out doesn't necessarily mean he's not the killer. Every alibi should be independently corroborated through some secondary source.
John seems to be our #1 suspect. He's just not admitting to having been in the house or having direct contact with her. We still had a lot of investigation to do before we could rule him out.
With John stonewalling them, the investigation hits a wall.
I think it did shock the people of Deer Park as well as the Spokane community. A mother of 5 children murdered inside her own home. No apparent signs of forced entry. Did she answer the door and someone forced her way in? That type of incident without answers scares people.
We had a very serious threat on the streets for the community at large. And that was very stressful for me at the time because I didn't want to miss anything. I wanted to make sure we covered all of our bases and that we were headed in the right direction.
But soon, their hard work pays off.
We always request records directly from the cell phone provider. And in this case, when I was able to get records for Shannon Starbucks' phone, I was able to go through them, and I found a 911 call that was not listed in her call records on her phone. Some cell phones actually mask 911 calls, and that would be if you were a victim and you called 911, as soon as you hang up, the suspect wouldn't be able to grab your phone and see that you had called. So it's kind of a safety feature.
The discovery of the 911 call rocks the investigation.
And I can actually remember standing up at my desk and announcing to all the other detectives in the room, she called 911, and it was extremely exciting. We're working on the premise that Shannon died somewhere in a 24-hour time span. So looking at those phone records, it timestamps 9:17 in the morning as the time that this event is taking place. We're able to verify that with 911, and it was an oh my gosh moment of, we really know when this happened now.
To me and to other investigators, that indicated that that was the time she was attacked.
911, what are you reporting?
And she was killed shortly thereafter.
Hello?
Obviously, this revelation is shocking, and the fact that investigators and hearing this for the first time, I mean, this was under their noses all along. She was essentially in the throes of death.
Detectives have learned that Shannon Starbucks called 911 in distress in the early morning of December 1st, the day she was killed.
So we were unaware up until weeks into the investigation that she had ever called 911. But once we saw it in the phone records, I was able to contact the 911 dispatch center, have them pull the records for that specific date and time, and they found a recording that they didn't know existed.
911, what are you reporting?
When you listen to the recording, you can hear a grunt and a muffled noise in the background that sounds like someone possibly being assaulted.
911, what are you reporting? Hello?
It was eerie in the sense that you knew this is a struggle that's going on and this person's fighting for their life, and it doesn't turn out well. The 911 receiver actually talks at the exact same time that that noise is in the background.
911, what are you reporting?
And it would be my belief that he probably talked over it and didn't realize that there was anyone on the end. He did call the phone number immediately back, but there was no answer. It goes to voicemail because the phone has been shut off or disabled by this time.
Hi, this is Shannon. Please leave a message.
And therefore, there is no further contact.
Almost without exception, in every jurisdiction, 911 hang-up calls are at least a one-officer dispatch.
Would it necessarily have stopped what was occurring? Not likely, but maybe perhaps her killer could have been found much earlier.
The discovery of the 911 call sends the investigation into a whole new direction.
Initially, it appeared that Shannon was most likely alive in the afternoon of December 1st. She's texting to multiple people, both Tom, John, Clay at some point, and the kids as well.
Detectives now believe it was likely Shannon's killer, trying to pretend Shannon was still alive.
Your scope of possible suspects really starts to slim down because now you can check out their alibis and know whether or not it was possible for them to have been involved or not.
With the new evidence, detectives take another look at their prime suspect, John Kenline.
We discovered that at 9:20, he's taking the kids to school. So to me, that's pretty closely ruling John out as being involved in getting back and forth between those locations with the amount of time it would take to go from Spokane to Deer Park. I am now convinced John Kenline was not involved in the murder of Shannon Starbucks.
This is a case that would be and has been extraordinarily frustrating for investigators in that you have some pretty specific crime scene behaviors and a puzzling scene and a number of viable suspects, and nothing is shaking out. The unanswered questions are going to keep you up at night.
After ruling out John Kenline in the murder of Shannon Starbuck, detectives go back to the drawing board.
We're looking at saying, okay, somebody got on her phone and was communicating with John Kenline, was communicating with Tom Walker, was returning messages.
Detectives do a deeper dive into Shannon's personal life and make an alarming discovery.
While I'm talking to the friends of Shannon, they are informing me that Clay has been nothing but trouble for Shannon. He has harassed her, he has done damage to her place, he has done damage to her vehicle, he has threatened her.
He owes her a significant amount of child support. He's a very much controlling person. He's not happy with the fact that she's dating other men, that he has no control over her, and he has been stalking and harassing her for some time.
When it's learned that Clay has been stalking Shannon, it's particularly troubling to me as a psychologist. We know from the research in intimate partner homicides that when stalking's involved, it increases the risk 2 to 3 times that somebody's going to end up murdered.
We discovered she was so concerned about Clay stalking her, essentially, that she did ask for and receive a domestic violence protection order.
Tragically, the use of restraining orders like we see in this case, I mean, it's a piece of paper. The existence of that paper is actually seen by the offender as a voucher to actually act on what they've already been planning. It actually infuriates and escalates their behavior to the point that it has the opposite of the desired effect.
She had told individuals in the community that if something happened to her, if she was harmed or killed, that it was Clay Starbuck that had done it to her.
Based on these new revelations, detectives take a second look at Clay Starbuck.
So Clay had given us a story about his vehicle breaking down and how he had sent some text messages to Shannon to try to get her to take the children to school. And then after his car broke down, he went back to his house and fell asleep. Somewhere in there, he said that his cell phone battery died and his cell phone was off for a majority of the day. And that in itself wasn't contradictory to anything we found in the cell phone records. His phone was actually off for a majority of the day. But when we examine cell phone records frequently, we don't look at just a very small frequent time frame because people live and breathe on their cell phones in this day and age. You develop patterns. So for Clay Starbucks, over a 1-year total of cell phone records were obtained. And what we were able to see was that at no other time over the preceding year has his phone ever been off for the amount of time that it was off on the day that Shannon Starbuck was murdered. He had never in the prior year had text messages sent to him that he didn't respond to in a timely fashion, or go for periods of time where there was no activity. Yet on the day of Shannon Starbuck's murder, all of those things happened.
Detectives meet with Clay, testing his alibi against the new timeline.
We ask him to go for a little ride with us to show us the route that he drove and where his vehicle broke down and how he walked back to his house, which he agreed to do. Now, this is a golf course community, and there are actually greens in between some of these residences. And where the vehicle stalled is across from one of these greens that goes in between these houses and would have been the most likely direct route to walk back to his house. And in this particular December, there isn't a lot of snow. There wasn't anything really impeding someone from taking that route. But Clay insists that he walked down the sidewalk and stayed off of the golf green, at which point he turns and goes east through the neighborhood back to his own residence. We follow this route, and we specifically look for home security cameras, and we find one. We contact the homeowners and ask them if we can look at their security footage, and after looking at the footage numerous times, We cannot once find Clay Starbuck walking past this residence that he claims he walked past 4 times on that day. I questioned him on this at least 2 to 3 times. Are you sure this is the route you've taken? And he is adamant that that's the route he's taken. And now, after looking at the footage from the surveillance video, it's obvious that Clay Starbuck isn't being truthful with us about where he was and what he was doing.
Detectives have now shifted the focus of their investigation in the murder of Shannon Starbuck to her ex-husband, Clay, when a surprising piece of evidence emerges.
DNA that was identified as belonging to male Starbuck lineage was found in the area where Shannon was strangled and suffocated. So it wasn't DNA just found on a ledge or an item of clothing or something that had been there for a while. This was DNA that was found on Shannon Starbuck, where she was injured, part of the cause of her death.
In order to link the killer's DNA left on Shannon's body to Clay, detectives must prove it belongs to him and not one of his sons.
We were able to eliminate the adult male Starbuck children because one of them was at school during that day and the other one was at work. That left us with Clay Starbuck as being the provider of the DNA on Shannon Starbuck.
Closing in on their killer, detectives bring Clay Starbuck down to the station to confront him with the damning evidence.
Clay Starbuck agreed to be interviewed. He waived his rights, so we proceeded with a recorded interview with him.
Part of how we got here today, Clay, is the fact that all of the evidence has lined up to show that you have not been truthful with us to this point. All of the evidence is lined up to show that you were there at the house on that particular day that Shannon died.
Is that no? I can't hear you. No? No, don't sit here and tell me you weren't there, because we have the proof that you were there, okay?
No, I've been in that house probably 30 times.
Okay, it's not about the house.
It's not about the house, and
It's not about the house. How did your DNA get on her neck and her face and under her fingernails?
You say my DNA was there under her fingernails and around her mouth. I don't have any scratches or bruises. You guys looked at me for that. I didn't do that.
I said, I understand that, Clay, but let me go get something. I went and grabbed the lab report, and I showed it to him.
This is the laboratory report that indicates your DNA was under her fingernails, was on her neck, and on her face.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I
Okay.
just have a problem believing it.
your DNA is there because you murdered Shannon.
He started breathing heavy. He was almost hyperventilating.
I'm not doing very well right now.
You're not doing very well because you're under arrest for murder. I agree with you. You're not doing very well right now.
At that point, he shut down. He didn't make any more statements.
Detectives arrest Clay Starbuck and charge him with the murder of his wife, Shannon.
Sadly, Shannon's fatal mistake was daring to start a new life without Clay. And it really drove him crazy. Clay killed Shannon, I think, because he was jealous and he did not want to have to pay her child support every month. And at the time of the murder, he owed her more than $9,000. And so it appears that Clay decided that he could get out of these financial problems by simply killing her.
Detectives now believe they know what happened to Shannon Starbuck in the last 24 hours of her life.
December 1st, around 8 a.m., Clay text messages Shannon, asks her to take the children to school. Most likely during the time frame that she's away from the house, taking the children to school, Clay has snuck into the house and he lays in wait for her while she is going about her morning routine.
While Clay is waiting for Shannon to return home, he turns off his cell phone.
Shortly after getting back to the house, he attacks her. She attempts to call 911, but that call is cut short.
911, what are you reporting?
And her phone is turned off. And then he murders her through a struggle, strangulation. He positions her in a humiliating fashion for the rest of the community to be aware of after the fact, and makes her look like the bad person because she's doing some online dating and things that he doesn't necessarily approve of.
After she was attacked, I believe Clay got on her phone and on her computer and started looking through it and communicating back with these individuals, trying to frame either Tom Walker or John Kinline as being the ones that committed the murder.
Clay then returns home, turns on his cell phone, and waits for his kids to get home from school.
Clearly, this festering jealousy had led him to the point where he was prepared to commit murder, but at the same time, he was able to keep things under control and keep his behavior premeditated and organized enough that he uses these texts to artificially engineer this alibi.
It's Thursday Shannon's day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I'm the guarantee. I'm the go-to guy on taking him to school. So, but Thursday, the car's dead. I'm getting that going back and forth. And at 3:30 on Thursday, she says something like, I just got up. Can you get the kids? But my phone wasn't on.
For me, I also wonder, is there an element of sadism here? Is there a deeper quality to him that really wants to have Shannon experience pain and suffering?
Clay Starbucks is found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Clay definitely planned this out. There was a significant amount of premeditation, and I think that someone that can be that calculating and that terrible to any other human being, spending the rest of his life in prison is definitely what he deserved.
It's horrendous, but not just because of what happened to Shannon. It's what it did to this family. When Clay Starbucks killed Shannon, he robbed their children of their mother, and then because of his life sentence, he robbed his children of a father. It was a selfish act based in greed and jealousy, and it just didn't have to happen.
She was a mother, 8-year-old triplets, and she was face down on the couch, strangled to death.
It's likely that whoever killed her was somebody who knew her and was conversing with her, and then would have flown into a rage and attacked her.
A cold-hearted killing.
The scarf could have been used to strangle Dana to death.
This case was a genuine whodunit.
A twisted mystery with multiple suspects.
The police looked at the estranged husband. They'd looked at the boyfriend. They'd looked at the stalker. Somebody did this. They just had to figure out who that was.
The truth will be revealed.
I may describe this person best as somebody who's a fledgling psychopath.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. At the foot of Mount Rainier in Washington lies Puyallup, a quaint, peaceful town with nature trails and tree-lined streets.
Puyallup is a smaller town. It's an old town. It has some nice scenery. You move here for the schools and the parks and for your kids. Puyallup is a safe town. It's going to have a lower crime rate. It's not the kind of place where you expect to see a lot of violent crime.
But in August 2001, on a day like any other, police get a worrying call about one of the town's newest residents.
Dana Lascowski worked as a nanny for 2 doctors, and she was scheduled to arrive at 7:30 in the morning at work, and she didn't show up. This was very unusual for her. She was very reliable, so her employers called us, and we responded out to her house to check her welfare.
About 11 in the morning, the police arrive at Dana's residence to just make sure that she's okay. Knock on the door, and there's no answer. They did a perimeter check, and they looked in the windows and tried to see if they could see anything, and they didn't notice anything. But they did find that the back door was open, and so they went ahead and entered the house.
Our officers came in calling Dana's name and then found her on the couch in the living room. She was underneath blankets. She was in a position where her head was resting on her arm, and then her other arm, we found it behind her back. She was deceased.
Police will always do at least a cursory examination of the body to see where the injuries might be and to look for any kind of things like stab wounds or gunshot wounds. There were nothing like that, but they did notice injuries to her throat, ligature marks. And there was a scarf close by, which indicated that she'd been strangled. At this point, it's a homicide investigation.
But who would want to kill 36-year-old Dana Lascowski?
Dana was a mother with 8-year-old triplets, and she had a niece, Amanda, that she felt like a mother to, and said, you can come and go here however you please, and so can your friends, and if you need anything from me, I'll be there.
When she'd walk into a room, she would get to know everybody in the room. Everybody would like her. She's very outgoing, very personable.
She was always somebody that had a kind word or a kind deed for everybody.
Tasked with investigating Dana's murder are veteran detective Scott Bramhall and prosecuting attorney Stephen Penner.
There are certainly crime scenes, homicide scenes, where there's blood spatter, a victim on the ground, visible injuries, maybe a disruption all around the room. That wasn't the case here. There wasn't any blood, no weapons. There wasn't anything really broken. She was face down on the couch.
When police turn Dana over, they find bruising on her neck and dried blood around her nose and ears.
The medical examiner ruled that the cricoid cartilage of her throat was fractured, so it's a crushing injury to the throat.
Dana died from being strangled to death, probably with her own scarf. It's possible to strangle somebody with your hands, but like any tool, a ligature makes it easier. If you're behind them with a ligature, it can be very difficult to get the ligature off the throat. And even if you can dig your fingers in between the ligature and your throat, it won't stop the compression of the airway. In this particular case, it appeared that the scarf could have been used to strangle Dana to death. So the police searched for any kind of trace evidence, DNA, bodily fluids, something that they could use to try to identify the killer. They looked for everything they could and they didn't find anything. We kept going back to Dana's body, where it was found and what position it was in. Her arm up behind her back, face down on the couch, strangled to death. It suggested that there was a struggle. Whoever did this had enough strength to overpower someone who's literally fighting for their life.
The crime indicated the offender was strong, somebody with upper body strength. So we were assuming the offender would be a male.
To find Dana's killer, Detective Bramhall must reconstruct the final 24 hours of her life, starting with the crime scene.
There were abrasions to Dana Lascowski's knees and elbows, and they would be an indication that Dana Lascowski was not killed on the couch, that it was likely that there was a possible struggle on the floor. We were able to process the carpet with luminol. What we did was we marked on the rug the location of the luminol illuminations, and that formed a pattern. The pattern would be an indication that Dana was killed on the floor. The person that killed her would have then picked her up and placed her on the couch and then covered her up.
Investigators believe the killer was trying to make the body more comfortable after death, an example of undoing behavior.
Undoing is a type of psychological defense mechanism. We all have such mechanisms. In this case, the fact that she was covered with a blanket may indicate that somebody had engaged in undoing behavior to cancel out or counteract the murder. You could read some remorse or guilt into undoing behavior. It implies that there's some sort of relationship here between the killer and the victim.
That would indicate that the killer was someone who had affection for Dana. This isn't a random burglar who broke in and accidentally found her. This is somebody maybe who knew her. And that's important as you develop suspects.
Then, police received significant information about Dana's murder.
The medical examiner was able to approximate that Dana had been there for a few hours before the police arrived, and most likely had died in the early hours of that morning.
We knocked on the neighbors' doors, and one said that they reported hearing a woman screaming during the night. They estimated that time at about 1 a.m., so that gave us a time frame.
We knew by 7:30 that morning, Dana probably was dead because she didn't show up for her job.
Having established Dana was killed between the hours of 1 and 7:30 a.m., police start looking into Dana's background for clues about her murder.
Dana was a mother. She had 3 young children, 8-year-old triplets, living with her. But at the time that Dana was murdered, they were with Steve, her husband. She had been recently separated. And police were able to establish that she had started dating. What that does is that just increases the universe of people who might be suspects. To people that Dana would have let into her house late at night, that she would think that she was safe with, when it turned out that she wasn't.
Detectives asked Dana's employers if Dana had concerns about any of the men she'd been dating.
The people that she worked for as a nanny told the police that Dana had mentioned a man, Adam, who had termed as kind of a stalker.
Dana had just moved into her house, and Adam ran a bucket truck for a cable company. And Adam had come to install some cable.
When the job was done, Adam asked Dana out on a date. She wasn't interested, but that didn't stop him from pursuing her.
Adam was a guy who wouldn't take no for an answer and wouldn't leave her alone. His behavior escalated. Dana reported getting notes on her door, flowers, gifts. And he was surveilling her while she was at home. And then calls and texts that just wouldn't stop. By all indications, this was obsessive, controlling, angry behavior, which would make it more credible that this person might be able to get to the mental state, the emotional state, to kill somebody.
Then, what police learn next increases their interest in Adam as a suspect even further.
Dana's employers told us that Dana had said that if anything happened to her, it would be this cable guy. We find that significant, and we take that very seriously.
If she was scared enough to tell people that he might do something to me, something violent, and then something did happen to her, that, of course, raised concerns by the police.
At that point, Adam becomes the prime suspect.
Police are closing in on a suspect, a cable installer named Adam, who had been stalking Dana Lascowski in the weeks leading up to her murder.
Adam seemed to have a motive, seemed to have a behavior that would suggest that he was likely the killer.
We were focused on Adam as a prime suspect. And we got search warrants on his vehicle, bucket truck, on his locker at work, and we took him into custody. He was belligerent. He was very uncooperative and insisted he wasn't the one that killed her.
Detectives then press Adam about where he was the night Dana was killed.
On the night of the murder, he said he was at home hanging out with his friends.
Searches through Adam's phone records show he was at home that night.
Based on his alibi as he gave it and the way it checked out, he was moved down on the list of suspects for our investigation.
The police really thought Adam was the one who had killed Dana because of the stalking behavior. But now they have to turn their attention and resources to other suspects.
Investigators shift their focus to a small clue found at the crime scene.
Dana Lascowski had a phone number written on her hand in ink, and some of that was faded. But we looked at that phone number and looked at identifying whose phone number it was.
When police check the phone number, they discover it belongs to a 35-year-old man named Julian.
The phone number linked to Julian opens up a realm of possibilities as to his potential motive. This speaks to a certain degree of intimacy. The fact that it's taken down in this manner suggests that that number was important to her.
Detectives track down Julian and bring him in for questioning. They ask why his phone number would be on Dana's hand.
He was not really answering. I thought that was a little odd. So we kind of zeroed in on his relationship with Dana.
Julian tells investigators Dana was dating his best friend, Matt, but Julian seems nervous.
When we confronted Julian and asked him if he also had a relationship with Dana, he acknowledged that. So it turns out that they were having an affair.
With this startling revelation, detectives now wonder if Julian could be Dana's killer. They question where he was the night of the murder.
Julian said he was at a bar on the night that Dana was murdered. Said he was there about from 10:30 at night till past 1 a.m. Checking into the bar management seemed to indicate that that was consistent with the truth. He was with a group of friends. His friends vouched for him being there. So his alibi didn't put him anywhere near Dana's house that night.
With Julian's alibi ruling him out as Dana's killer, detectives question if their affair gave his friend Matt a motive for murder.
Dana's killer would be the kind of person who she wouldn't think twice about having in her house, but also could be the kind of person who might be jealous and could get angry enough to strangle her to death. Romantic relationships can lead to that kind of intensity of feelings. Of course, they don't all do, but a lot of times when you see that type of crime, that's the situation. The nature of this killing was very personal, and so Matt, who seemed to be kind of a primary boyfriend for Dana, naturally became a suspect.
Armed with Julian's information, investigators dig deeper into Dana and Matt's relationship.
We were told Matt was very much in love with Dana, and Dana liked Matt, but was less into Matt than Matt was into Dana.
In this case, we have one person in this relationship is clearly more invested than the other. On top of that, he discovers that she's sleeping with his best friend. That automatically interjects a degree of obvious jealousy and resentment.
Dana's phone records reveal that she spoke with Matt repeatedly the night she was killed.
According to the phone records, Dana had been on the phone with her boyfriend, Matt, talking to him a few times between 11:30 and midnight.
When detectives ask Dana's friends about Matt, they learn he's a rough type of guy.
We were being told by Dana's friends and associates and family that Matt was a biker and a person that used hard drugs, the person who could fight. He was a person we were told he could fight 10 men at once. And so we looked at him as a very good suspect. It was possible Matt found out about the affair and went and confronted Dana because he felt that he had been jilted. And during that confrontation, flew into a rage, killing Dana.
In the murder of Dana Lascowski, Investigators have zeroed in on her boyfriend, Matt, who they learn is based just outside of Vancouver, Canada.
The fact that Matt lived in Canada, that alone wouldn't eliminate him as a suspect. Puyallup's only about a 3 or 4 hour drive.
So we went up to Canada to look into him. And when we arrived, we met with them, explained what we were there for, asked him where he was on the night that Dana was murdered.
When Matt is questioned, he denies having any involvement in Dana's death.
Matt said he tried to get down to Puyallup to visit Dana on the night that she died, but he was stopped at the border because he had a suspended license and was not allowed entry into the country.
So Matt told the police that at the time that Dana was murdered, he was at the Canadian border crossing and could not have been the one who had committed the murder.
We looked into it, and we could verify that he was where he said he was.
All of that was documented, not by Matt, but by the border officials. It was about as good an alibi as you could get. It was, in fact, backed up by the government.
With Matt cleared as a suspect, investigators ask him for any information that could lead to Dana's killer.
Matt said that he was on the phone with Dana on the night of the murder, and she seemed a little bit inhibited by some of her conversation. And that suggested that Dana might have had somebody in the house.
Matt suggests the mystery person could have been Dana's estranged husband, Steve.
Steve would certainly be a natural person to go talk to. And this was someone she'd shared part of her life with. But the state of being separated is a difficult state to be in emotionally. And depending on what else was going on, it could lead to that kind of anger that was necessary for this killing.
Steve might be jilted and angry enough to kill her, or they may just have had a planned meeting to exchange the children, could have erupted into a spontaneous argument which led to the murder. All of these were possibilities that we had to look into.
Detectives dig into Steve and discover he took out a life insurance policy on Dana.
The factor of a life insurance policy would be a motive for murder for financial reasons.
When we look at early typologies of murder, one of the earliest classification, even going back to the 1920s, classified gain or a financial motive as being one of the primary motivators for homicide.
We also felt that passion, jealousy, anger at having the family split up would be a possible motive for him wanting to kill Dana.
With Dana's ex-husband in their crosshairs, detectives bring him down to the station for questioning.
As we talked to Steve about his relationship with Dana, he was found to be unusually locked up and reserved in his emotions, kind of a flat affect. He was not very expressive.
Then, detectives notice another suspicious detail.
It was noted that he had abrasions to his knees, and Dana had abrasions to her knees and elbows. We felt that the two of them might have scuffled together on the night that she was murdered. When we asked Steve about the abrasions to his knees, he said he got them playing baseball. But then one of the detectives that was there happens to be a real baseball fan, and he said it was his opinion that those abrasions were not consistent with injuries that you'd get playing baseball. At that point, Steve really moved up at the top of the list of suspects.
But did Steve have the opportunity to kill Dana?
When we asked Steve where he was on the night of the murder, he said he was at home 5 hours away from Puyallup. He said he put the kids in bed, went out and gassed up the vehicle, got up the next morning and drove to a local campsite.
His alibi is interesting. The fact that the triplets are conveniently out of the house for the murder, that could be a coincidence. It could also speak to planning and that the children couldn't be there for that particular day because he had plans for her.
The round trip from where Steve lived to where Dana lived is 10 hours. So we really looked at the possibility of Steve being able to put the kids in bed and drive to Puyallup, kill Dana, turn around and drive back. or have the kids in the car asleep, drive to Puyallup, kill Dana, and drive back.
If Steve did make the trip to Dana's house, investigators know he would have needed to stop for gas along the way.
We retraced the steps and the route that Steve would have taken, checked for possible places where Steve might have gassed up. We checked the surveillance cameras, any indicators along the roadway that would have picked up his car. There was no evidence to support the theory that Steve made that route.
Not finding any evidence connecting Steve to the crime, investigators rule him out as a suspect.
Now they eliminated all the suspects, and when they did that, the investigation kind of hit a brick wall. It was a source of frustration for them.
We had reached a point in the investigation where we didn't have a very good suspect, a very good plausible explanation as exactly how the homicide occurred. We were kind of at an impasse, and with the positioning of Dana, the way she was covered with the blankets afterwards, that's very unusual offender behavior. So I felt it was necessary for an FBI profile to be done on the case. So I contacted the FBI.
The local police department may not be able to say, hey, I've seen this behavior in the past. Hey, I've seen this indicator in the past for all the other homicides we had. The FBI brings that background, that experience, and that knowledge to help the police identify additional suspects.
After reviewing the case, the FBI offers up the theory that this crime wasn't planned, but happened in the heat of the moment.
They infer that this was a crime of passion, crime of rage, and very improvised. And it speaks to an offender who is more disorganized than organized and who is acting impulsively.
The FBI said that the person who came to Dana's house that night did not come to the house to kill her. And it's likely that whoever killed her was somebody who knew her, who was conversing with her, and then would have flown into a rage and attacked her.
The police looked at the estranged husband. They'd looked at the boyfriend. They'd looked at the stalker. Now the police had to figure out new suspects who weren't as obvious. Somebody did this. They just had to figure out who that was.
Armed with new information from the FBI, investigators expand their search in the brutal murder of Dana Lascowski.
So now we were looking for somebody who was prone to flying into a rage, had upper body strength, maybe somebody that Dana would have rebuffed in advance from.
Looking for new leads, detectives examine the video footage from Dana's funeral.
It was important to see who went to the funeral, but it was also important to see how people acted at the funeral.
From a psychological standpoint, you want to see A, who's in attendance, B, how they're responding. It's entirely possible that the killer is present. When you think about most people being killed by someone they know, odds are that those persons or people are going to be at the funeral because it would be socially unacceptable not to. And then how do they manage that situation? Is there something that could reveal themselves and their involvement to investigators?
As police look through the guest book, they make an unexpected discovery.
Loved ones wrote comments in there such as, you know, they miss Dana. They can't believe she's passed away. They miss her dearly, think about her often. Then there was an entry from a niece, and she said, I'm sorry I wasn't a better niece. I've been clean and sober 34 days now. It's all because of you. And some of the family members described the niece as unruly and wild. But the entry told us that the niece had gone clean and sober after Dana's death.
But even more importantly, she was doing it for Dana, which showed two things. One was her love for Dana, but it also showed that she felt guilt for some reason for her aunt's death. And that was important. It suggested that she may have been involved either shortly before or even during or after, somehow.
Detective Bramhall sets his sights on Dana's niece, Amanda.
I called Amanda, but I asked her to come in for an interview.
And Amanda, we're talking about the death of your Aunt Dana.
Yes.
I know this is hard for you.
Amanda tells the detective that she and her aunt were close, almost like mother and daughter. She adds that Dana was always there for her and her friends.
Amanda and her friends, they call themselves the Park Rats, which we on the police department are well familiar with. They're kids that hang out at Pioneer Park. And they're kids that don't have good homes. They don't have a stable home environment. And drug use is their common bond as they're hanging out in the park.
This whole group was like right out of high school. They didn't really have plans. I think high school was behind them. They didn't know what was ahead of them. You know, they weren't home doing their homework. They weren't helping little old ladies across the street. It's a nice town, but to the extent that there was a rough group, this was that group. Dana tried to be a safe place for Amanda and her friends. Amanda could go to Dana's place, no questions asked, any time of day or night, and she could bring her friends if she needed to. That was significant when the police remembered Dana's back door was unlocked that night.
Investigators ask Amanda what she knows about her aunt's murder and quickly get a lead.
So she gave me the list of names of the people that had been in the house, and she did kind of focus on one individual, Zane. She describes Zane as somebody with a lot of upper body strength and yet a temper. Zane is somebody who dealt in marijuana.
Then, Amanda makes an even more alarming statement.
Amanda went in to describe how Zane made an advance at her, and she rebuffed him, and that he bent her over the couch and was being physical.
He tried to come on to me, and I was like, you know, what are you doing? Get away from me. And he proceeded to act like he was, you know, pounding me from behind and like holding my head down, and I'm like, stop. I mean, screaming, you know, and he wouldn't stop. And then I remember, you know, he thought it was funny, and he was laughing, and he's has a lot of strength, and he could hold me down.
This was almost consistent with the murder as we understood it. I undertake a look at Zane, and I look in our files. He's got a criminal history, dealing in drugs, violence. So he was enough in the criminal element to be a very good suspect.
Detective Bramhall reaches out to one of his younger informants to see what he knows about Zane.
I had a sit down with him, and I talked to him about the murder of Amanda's aunt. And I suggested to him that Zane would be a good likely suspect. And he looked at me and he said, Zane didn't kill Amanda's aunt. Emily killed Amanda's aunt. Everybody knows that.
One of the people in Amanda's group was a young woman named Emily. Emily is 17. She's living on the streets or close to it. She's using drugs. Amanda and Emily were very close, maybe best friends.
Detective Bramhall is familiar with Emily from her troubles with the law in her past.
I said to this person, are you telling me that Emily, this little 5'2" girl, strangled a 36-year-old mother of 3? And he said, your records are old. Emily is not a skinny little 5'2" girl. She is very muscular. She has a picture of her biceps hanging from her rearview mirror. We call her mutant because she likes to wrestle and fight with the guys.
But you can imagine the police were a little bit hesitant to believe that that was the case, really. Because again, somebody had overpowered Dana fighting for her life. Emily's not a normal suspect.
Detective Bramhall digs into the story that Emily could be Dana's killer.
As they started to interview these park rats, one of the things that started to come out was that maybe the toughest of all of them was Emily. And that Emily would win arm wrestling and even regular wrestling, and that she had this strength that other people were really surprised by, even the boys.
Detectives bring Emily down to the station for questioning.
She's wearing a very short blouse, and it exposes her waist. And I'm thinking about the position that we found Dana Lascowski in, and it would have taken torso strength. And I can see the muscles along the side of Emily's spine and the small of her back. She's very muscular. And I'm now more convinced that she could be the offender.
Detective Bramhall confronts Emily with reports of her involvement in Dana's murder.
She puts her hands on the table, she puts her head back, and her eyes go side to side. And then she comes forward very angrily and she says, "Those people are lying." And I said, "Oh, really, Emily? All those people are lying?"
You're seriously driving me insane. I didn't murder Dana Lascowski or whatever. No, there's no way it was me.
There's no way.
No.
And at that point, I was very persuaded that this is the murderer.
Police drill down on Emily, asking where she was when Dana was killed.
Emily and Amanda had told us that they were at a party at the time that Dana was murdered.
I was completely high out of my brain. And I was with Amanda like the whole time.
I found out that Emily and Amanda left the party at the same time another individual left the party. The other individual drove a given distance and made a purchase, and we got that receipt, so we had the time that Emily and Amanda had left the party around midnight. It was possible they made it to Dana's house before 1 a.m.
So they have information that they're concealing. They're likely involved in the crime. So what happened here? Could Emily be the killer?
With the circumstantial evidence stacking up against Emily in the Dana Lascowski murder case, police are granted a search warrant for the room she's renting.
One of the things that they found in Emily's room was a diary or a journal. And it had some of the typical stuff you'd expect from a 17-year-old girl. But it had a couple of things that you wouldn't necessarily expect. One was the bucket list. And one of the things on the list was to kill somebody and get away with it.
Then, police uncover another crucial piece of evidence.
There was an entry where she was angry at Amanda and wrote in there that she felt like strangling Amanda the way she'd strangled her aunt.
This shocking finding confirms Emily's guilt.
Emily's diaries talk about committing the homicide, strangling Dana, wanting to possibly strangle her niece Amanda in a similar way. And in my mind, that speaks to somebody who wants to dominate people, somebody who's getting self-esteem and power from committing such offenses, or even just knowing that should she want to, she's capable of doing it.
I confronted her with the entry in the diary, and I said, "Look, I could strangle her," referring to Amanda, "just like her aunt." She says, "Well, it doesn't say I could strangle her just like I strangled her aunt."
Now, Dana, we found strangled to death in her house. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thing is, we hadn't disclosed strangulation as the cause of death. So she was booked, held for $500,000 bail, and I could begin the investigation of Emily as the offender, the murderer of Dana Lascowski.
Detective Bramhall questions Amanda again, this time confronting her about the lies she's been telling about the night of Dana's murder.
And I said, "What happened?" And Amanda said, "I don't know, I wasn't there." Why was Amanda misleading us?
I'm curious as to why you didn't tell me when we first met.
Scared of her. I was afraid that I would get hurt too.
You said you cared so much about your Auntie Dana, but you led us on a wild goose chase. I list all the points where she has lied.
It doesn't take long before Amanda cracks under the pressure, telling detectives everything she knows.
Before we even got there, Emily had said, "Oh, I want some money, we need money," and I had agreed. So we walked in the living room, Dana was up and awake. And she was surprised to see us, and, and was like, "Amy, Dana, we need money." And she had said that she didn't have any cash on her, and, I was really fine with that. But, Emily, "Come on, Dana, just anything, we really need help, We knew that she had some change and some dollars in a cabinet
and Dana was getting really irritated because we were high, and I'm sure we were jittery, and Emily started getting really upset and being really rude to Dana, so Dana wanted us to leave. And she kind of, put her hand on Emily to, push her out, and Emily didn't like that, and she wasn't having it, and she kept pushing Dana. And I kind of, walked back a little bit because I didn't want to get involved, and I was yelling at him to stop. And then all I heard was little, gagging noises and gagging noises, and I saw Emily on top of her.
Then Amanda says, Emily strangled my aunt right in front of my eyes. Sorry I didn't tell you earlier.
The fact that Amanda watches Emily murder her aunt and does nothing, I think either speaks to the fact that she too was afraid of Emily, or this happened so quickly that she probably didn't even realize what she was witnessing, and that's not uncommon.
With Amanda's cooperation, investigators are now able to fill in the final 24 hours of Dana's life.
That night, Emily and Amanda had left the party around midnight. Then they made it to Dana's house before 1 a.m. They came in the back door. They were on drugs. Dana was on the couch in the living room. They went in to try to get some money. Dana said, I'm not going to give you any money. And Emily said, I want some money. And then there was a point where Dana said, enough, you girls are going to have to leave. And Dana stood up and she touched Emily, and Emily exploded. And then Emily attacked her and strangled Dana Lascowski.
Amanda watched Emily attack Dana, and Amanda yelled at her to stop, but it was too late.
It was over. The scream that the neighbor reported hearing at 1 o'clock on the night that Dana was murdered turned out not to be Dana's scream, but rather Amanda's scream.
Emily then positions Dana's body on the couch under blankets.
They grabbed a few dollars that Dana had around and got out of there.
On the way out, Emily stops and takes some of Dana's clothing.
Emily attended the funeral of Dana. She wore these clothes to the funeral. This was her display of power and dominance. I wore these clothes because I can. Look at what I did. I may describe her best as somebody who's a fledgling psychopath. She was young. Typically, psychopaths are adults. It takes several years for behavior to develop. We clearly see there's a pattern here of conduct disorder, and then there's a murder.
The one unanswered question plaguing investigators is motive.
Emily told her friends, well, Amanda kept ditching me for her aunt, and Emily specifically said she was not sorry she killed Dana.
Perhaps Emily wanted to kill Dana to have Amanda all to herself. Amanda, she was reportedly close to Dana. It's entirely possible that she killed Dana as a message to Amanda. Amanda was present when this occurred. So what message is that sending to Amanda? I've done this and now I can do this to you?
Despite her role in Dana's murder, Amanda is given a plea deal and sees no prison time.
We had a lot of discussion about what we're going to do with Amanda. We certainly had her for robbery, but I felt that we needed her as a witness because she witnessed the murder. And if we charged her with a crime, she'd have the right to remain silent. So we decided that we were going to treat her as a witness.
With Amanda's testimony, Emily is charged with the murder of Dana Lascowski, but her case never goes in front of a jury.
Emily pled a Newton plea wherein she does not admit guilt. She just admits if she were to go to trial, there would be enough evidence to convict her. Emily was convicted for manslaughter in the first degree. She received a sentence of about 7 years.
After serving just 5.5 years in prison, Emily is released in 2008. She moves back to Puyallup, gets married, and has children.
The fact that Emily is out there walking around right now is concerning. These are not compulsions that just go dormant. She's already killed once. She had no regrets. She wore the victim's clothing to the funeral, much the way serial killers carry around souvenirs and trophies taken from their crimes to relive it. She should be under continued observation by police.
This case was a genuine whodunit. Most of the murders we go to, we know exactly what happened even before we get there. This one, we didn't understand going into it, but we were able to get on the right path to get this solved. And I'm glad to bring it to light. It was my job to do it, and I did my job.
This case was complicated because there was a lot of emotion and there was a lot of personal connections with everyone involved, and this was a terrible tragedy. A woman, a mother, an aunt, who shouldn't have died that night. And then a 17-year-old girl who killed her, who shouldn't have killed her that night. And no matter what the justice system does, it doesn't bring Dana back.
Everybody loved Dana, and she is out of the life of her father, of her mother, and her kids are triplets. They were 8 years old at the time, and they grew up without her. So this is not justice, but in murder, nobody good wins.